whenever I go to a city, I want to know where the art scene is, because the art reflects the culture, it reflects how people are thinking and what the issues are in that society, what the things are that people are celebrating in that society. So it's really a reflection of the city.
Hello and welcome to Say Hi to the Future, a podcast aimed at highlighting the human side of human ingenuity. My name is Ken Tenser, curator of Say Hi to the Future and CEO of SpyderWorks, a leading business consultancy for mid-market organizations and entrepreneurs globally. With me today is Julia Barrett. She is an emerging Columbus-based artist working in sculpture, street art, fabric, digital art, and most of all, oil painting. Her art is comprised of two types of focuses, one pertaining to humanity and civil rights, and the other more specifically focuses on sex education and the normalization of bodies. She combines her activism into being an artist and is always politically involved. She's not afraid to speak up for what is right and expose what is wrong. Her focus in creation is to bring light to issues, educate her viewers, and to strive for better societies for us to live in and be a part of. Like this video if you enjoy our show, and subscribe to our channel. Leave us a comment with who we should interview next, and thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the show. Well, Julia, welcome to Say Hi to the Future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So this show is about passion and savage curiosity. And you are an artist, which means that you definitely have a passion and a passion for creativity. Where did that come from?
I would say mostly it comes from my family, especially my mom growing up. She really pushed my creativity and pushed me to be open-minded and go out into the world and figure everything out, I guess.
Let's go. So where did creativity start for you? Was it just as a child? Was it like, where do you even begin with thinking, wow, I am creative, or I like creativity?
That's a great question. Like, where does creativity come from? When did that start? For me, I've always been very hands-on, very like, what can I make out of this object? How can I use this cardboard box to create like another world? Or growing up and being a teenager, like, what can I put on this canvas that's different from what I've seen from the old masters or what people are currently doing? You know, how can I put my passions onto objects to make people feel? So I don't know where it comes from. It's just something that's always been inside of me.
That's really cool. And when you talk about, when you say the old masters, so your parents must have been, I would say, very, as you said, very open, but not just open and encouraging, but introducing you to different topics and areas. So how as a parent should we be doing that?
So I don't know about other parents, but for my own parents, especially my mom, she, well, when she was around my age, she was engaged to somebody who was an artist. And unfortunately, he passed away from cancer. And she ended up getting all of his sketchbooks and everything. And so when I was growing up, when she married my dad and had me all that, she still had his sketchbooks. And when I was little, I would go through all the sketchbooks and see, you know, this guy's drawings, and I would redraw everything from those sketchbooks as like a little child or as a teenager. So I would say that is really what made me want to create art and sketch and draw bodies. But as parents, I guess, I mean, that's not really advice you can give to people, like, oh, go get yourself a artist fiance. But
yeah,
I would say just have things around the house that will open up your child's mind, or, you know, expose your children to different cultures, or hell, even the library or even the art museum. It's pretty simple. Just go out and explore what's around you. Don't just be in a bubble.
No, that's good advice. And what you said, don't be in a bubble. I think that's
Yeah.
one of the most important things for all of us. I tried to do that with my kids. I do that with myself. Obviously my background is in ingenuity and innovation as an entrepreneur. And what I've always said to people is, when you're in a city or you're in a new place, try your absolute best not to take the subway.
Really?
Yeah, I tell
Okay.
them, even in New York, walk 40 blocks, walk 50 blocks.
Gotcha. Yes.
You just you see things. Well, and New York's a good example because there's so many boroughs, there's so many areas, there's so many communities. And over 40 or 50 blocks, you can just see and be exposed to so many different experiences, which whether you're an artist or in business, it puts you in touch with how people are thinking or feeling or expressing themselves. So I always tell people, as you said, don't be in a bubble, stay above ground, keep your eyes open.
It's funny that you say that, because I also tell people, like, oh, whenever I'm in a new city, I take the bus or I take the subway, which you tell people not to do. But what I do is I go on the bus and I just see where it takes me. And then I will get off whenever I'm like, this looks like an interesting place, or the subway. Like, I used to do that in Paris. I would go on the metro, and it would just, some of the metros would go above ground so you could see around. And so, just do some kind of transportation or some kind of walking or bicycling. Bicycling is great to really get to know a place. So
tell us about your time in Paris. I mean, it's funny, I'm doing my doctorate through a school there and I teach there.
Oh, really?
So
what? That's amazing. Where do you teach?
Sorry?
Where do you teach there?
Where?
Yeah.
Oh, international school management. So it works with a series of different universities as well as its own. So I teach actually ingenuity and innovation to master's students.
That's great.
Yeah, but I mean, that is a city where creativity abounds. So why were you there? When were you there? How did that impact you?
I think you're right. It is creativity abound everywhere. And so that's why I wanted to go there ever since I was little. I double majored in French and fine arts. And the reason I went to OSU was because I wanted to study abroad. Of course, I had to go to Paris. That was the place. I had never, been over to Europe or anything. And I got a scholarship and I got the money and I got to go. So I went to Paris. I studied there. I actually got to do some history classes, some art history classes, and be in the actual museums with the actual paintings and see them in person and study them, which was so cool. And then France had a hold of my heart all of my life. But ever since, going to Paris, I was like, all right, this city is the love of my life. I can't not be in France. So I actually ended up going back to France a few years later and worked there in a city called Rouen, which is an hour and a half away from Paris.
And what did you do when you were working there?
I was an English assistant. I just wanted to get any job just to get back over. And then while I was there, I was establishing my art career a little bit. I kind of forced myself into the art scene in Rouen. I was like, hi, I'm from America. Like, where's the art community? I would go around to galleries and be like, where's the art community? Where's your galleries? Where's your studios? Where's the art hangouts? To gallery owners. And they're like, whoa, calm down, lady. But eventually I weaseled myself into like a show there, which was really great. And I got my art into some cafes and I was starting up, building my way up, and then COVID hit. So I came back to the United States and here I am.
There you go. But so that's a pretty cool story, though. I mean,
Thanks.
so talk to us now about your art, because I mean, you work across a lot of different media.
Yes.
You work inside and out, if I can
Yes.
put it that way. So just talk to us about, where it started and how it's evolved for you.
Oof. I guess if we're going back to childhood, it started with watercolors with my mom. We would sit down and draw like Bob Ross trees and stuff with watercolors. And I was like, I love painting. This is cool. Um, and then I revisited it when I was in high school with the sketchbooks I was talking about. I would go through and there was a lot of figurative nude drawings, and I was like, ooh, I'm rebellious. I'm drawing naked ladies. Oh yeah. So I would have my sketchbooks full of just like naked women. And then I started entering my paintings and other work into competitions in high school. I made it into maybe 1 out of 4 competitions that I applied to, and I actually won it. So that was cool. And I was a very rebellious kid. I still am. I think every artist is. And my dad very much wanted me to go into business, which I'm good at. I'm good at sales. But I was like, no, I want to do art. And we were, fighting. So it made me want to do it even more, I guess, and prove people wrong that artists don't have to be broke and they don't have to be starving. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, and so talk about the different media you work with now, because it's certainly, when I see it, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of really cool street art that I've seen that you've done.
Yeah. I love doing street art. I love doing murals. So I am a very eclectic person. I don't like to stick to one thing. I think the world is full of so many cool different things that I can get my hands into. So I've done everything from sculpture to, um, let's see, graphic design and website design to oil on canvas, which is one of my favorite all-time materials. And then, of course, I have my murals, which I've been getting more and more into these past couple of years. Um, I don't, I think the murals started probably back in 2000, or the street art at least started back in 2016-ish, that time period where I just started putting stickers up. That's how it started. And then all of a sudden I was wheat pasting, and a lot of my subjects when I'm doing street art or when I'm doing murals, it has to do with things like death, violence, murder. So, and a lot of issues that correlate with that. So a lot of my art, though, on the streets is very colorful. So you would go up to these faces and you would think, oh, wow, that's a rainbow face. It's so colorful and beautiful. And you go up and it's like the photo of somebody who has unfortunately been a victim of gun violence or a school shooting. And then there are other things that I was a part of in France where they would go around kind of sticking up for women who had been abused by spouses, or this in French is called feminicide, like femicide.
So some really, really tough subjects that you've thought of, not speaking to, but creating to. I mean, and then, as you said, you do it in a colorful way, in a way that draws people in.
Yeah.
What do you want people to feel or take away when they see this?
I mean, a lot of street art is colorful and poppy, and like you want to take an Instagram photo with it. So I think in that way, I'm drawing people in to talk about more serious subjects, to think outside of like these boxes we put ourselves in of like, oh, we're out and we're like having a good time. Look at this cool little area. Let's take a photo with it. And then it's like, hey, while you're at it, like, let's talk about a serious subject. So that's a lot of my artwork. I like to draw people in, make them laugh, make them smile, have them interact with the artwork, and then all of a sudden they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and how does that change a city? Because I know that in Toronto, where I am today, in Toronto, there's a lot of really cool areas that are open to street art. There's a lot of alleyways that people actually come to as tourist destinations. So it becomes a hub, not, for creativity and for art, and for people wanting to understand street art or to view it. What do you think that adds? I mean, is that something, because you're back in Columbus now, is that something that's prevalent there? Is that something that you think should be or is important to a city? Or
is street art important to a city? Is that yes, 100%. It's whenever I go to a city, I want to know where the art scene is, because the art reflects the culture, it reflects how people are thinking and what the issues are in that society, what the things are that people are celebrating in that society. So it's really a reflection of the city. We should have more street art.
very cool. And what do you want people to feel when they see it, though?
My specific street art,
Yeah.
I want them to feel a mixture of emotions. I want them to feel happy. The colors are meant to celebrate, the life of people that are subjects in my street art, or cats or animals, because I've also done animals in my street art who have passed away. So I want them to feel happy and like joyful that these people existed, but also at the same time, I want them to be a bit take away and be somber and realize like, hey, that happiness could have continued, or we can continue that happiness for other people or other animals or creatures or whatever subjects. We can end violence, we can end murder, we can end whatever topic I'm talking about, or at least we can fix it, or we can create solutions, or we can create boundaries or whatever. That's what I want people to take away, like this idea that you can help, you can stop this, you can fight, advocate, do whatever.
Do you ever watch people looking at your street art? Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I've had my artwork up at a gallery. So I've seen people go and interact with, I have a big fat cat. He was my cat, actually. His name was Obi, and he suddenly passed away right before my birthday last year in 2020. And it was very sad. And I was like, I'm gonna do a tribute to him, and the gallery allowed me to like paint on their walls, and I was very excited. And then we had a show and people were going up and they didn't know it was my artwork, and I was just sitting there like a fly on the wall, just watching people taking selfies or whatever with the art. It was really cool to watch, and I was like, oh, I'm making people happy, that's great.
That's really cool. And do you want them to feel what you're feeling, or are you just happy or content with it, with them interpreting it, how they will do?
It's interesting that you bring this up, because actually last night I posted a TikTok, and in it is one of my pieces of art that I do. And a lot of people were confused as to what it was. So it's like, you can't control what the viewer sees or thinks or feels with your artwork. I can't do that. I can't control what the viewer sees or thinks or feels.
Okay. And what's your favorite piece of work that you've done today?
It's a hard one to answer, but I think it is an oil painting that I did of my dear friend Bryden, who is a trans man. And it was the it's my favorite because it was the first realistic oil painting that I've done to date. Like, I stood back and I was like, did I actually create that? That looks like a photo. That's weird. So I guess for me in my mind, that was a huge accomplishment because I went to school to paint realistically. And when I was in school, I wasn't really taught the exact steps how to paint realistically. So I had to do a lot of research. I had to do a lot of painting on my own and figuring out shape and form and color and whatever else. So for me, that was like, I did it. I got here.
That's a cool moment.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you also, I think, do some commission work,
Oh yeah.
how do you work that through? Because you obviously have some um, an interesting juxtaposition, like some very serious, very deep topics that you present in a very, I don't know, light or approachable way. I mean, does that flow into the commissions, or are commissions more like your dad's point of view of, hey, there's a business here?
Yeah. The commissions mainly are dad's point of view of like sales. Um, I would say with art commissions, there are two realms. They're either the people that want the happy trees and the farmhouses and pictures of their cats or whatever, which is fine. And I like doing them. Like, they make me extra money so I can keep doing the art that I really, really love. And then there are the commissions that are like, hey, I love what you're doing. Obviously, I lean more towards the artwork that I am able to produce out of my soul, you know, but I also don't mind occasionally doing the cute little chicken painting or whoever, like family members or friends of friends portraits, things like that, because it still generates income as an artist. And hey, don't want to be a broke artist, but you know.
Very cool. So 20 years from now, when if you're standing there and looking back, how would you want your work to be remembered? Like, what do you think you're building to?
That's a good question. I would love to be in bigger settings 20 years from now. I don't really, because I'm not there yet, I'm not looking back, if that makes sense. I just kind of live in this moment and have future goals, but I don't think like, hey, how will I feel about this moment right now in the future? But I do think when the hard times come, if there are hard times, which there always are, I'm like, hey, in the future, we're going to look back and think this was really hard, but we got through it.
And we got through it. What part of, because we've all had a couple of crazy years, tough years on
Yeah.
different levels.
Oh, yeah.
What role do you think art or creativity plays in making those years not easier, but better in some way, more engaging? I'm not sure the word I'm actually looking for, but there's a sort of escapism in art.
Yeah, for sure.
How does that help during the really tough times for people?
I mean, it helps you cope. Uh, 2019 and 2020 were especially hard for me, besides the pandemic happening. Um, I was going through a lot. I was going through a lot of change, a lot of culture shock, a lot of heartbreak. So it was just one thing after another that just compiled, and I felt like this complete awful mess. And I did not feel like myself because I wasn't. I changed, you know, and was adapting to this new person. So artwork kind of, in those years, I shifted from doing my normal like topics about other people to self-portraits and reflecting on myself and what I was feeling and the emotions I was going through, because I needed that. I needed like some kind of outlet to bury my emotions into, right? So art is really a coping mechanism, no matter what stage of life you're in, or how you feel, or what emotions you're going through, whether it's happy or sad.
No, I love that point, because again, even if people interpret your work in a way that is different from how you do or how you might have intended, I think art is both a release or a point of expression for the artist, but it allows us as the viewer to engage and to, I don't know if it's find comfort, but find an affiliation, or, you know, understanding what other people are going to. It's almost the creativity allows us to deal with what we're going through.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It's sometimes hard to put into words, because you look at a painting, you look at a mural, you look at a piece of art in any form, and you do have that emotive experience, and it does make you feel maybe better, maybe happier, maybe I don't know, more challenging of oneself. So I think that's a really cool part of what you're doing.
Thank you.
So are you going to be Columbus based for a while? Are you going to try and get back to Paris?
That's always the question. It feels like every time I go back to France or go somewhere else, plans get kind of messed up. I think the universe right now is telling me to stay here. I did try to go back to Europe at the end of December, like a couple weeks ago, but COVID unfortunately happened, and so I had to cancel my plans, and it is what it is. C'est la vie.
It is. But you know what? Columbus is a really cool city.
It is.
And there's an interesting art scene. There's an interesting social scene. That's one of the reasons
Yes.
why, we had our Say Hi to the Future, our Human Ingenuity conference there. It's sort of a hidden jewel in a lot of ways. It's at the forefront of a lot of social issues, right there in the midst of Ohio, which
Oh yeah.
may not be like, I have to be honest in saying I did not understand that when I first went there and first went to the Columbus College of Art and Design to meet with them and speak with them. And pretty cool place for you to be.
Yeah, 100%. Columbus, Ohio is, I think people are starting to realize what a gym it is. Growing up here, I'm always like, I want to get out. But, now I'm realizing everybody wants to move here because it's the new, like, nobody wants to be in big cities anymore because of the cost, and everybody can come here and it's lower cost. That's a whole other topic in itself and a whole other conversation. Yeah. But
understood. But you know what, Julia, thank you so much for sharing your time today and your thoughts. And just as we sign off, what are you working on right now that you might want to share?
That's a good question. What am I working on? Let me think about that for a second, because I always have a million projects. I just don't know which one is the most important at the moment.
There you go. Okay. Well, again, thanks for being on, and we look forward to seeing your work in the future.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.